Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Luigi's Mansion. In the last where we traveled even deeper here in Area 2 and just got our fire element medal over near Madame Clairvoyant's room. And in doing so, we lit up some candles and got a key just to the door to the left of the door that got us here to Area 2. So now let's go check out what's over in that direction. You could theoretically go do something else really quickly first. But for the sake of, I'm going to call it simplicity, we're going to wait on that until I've explored these other two rooms to the fullest potential, just so I don't have to worry about missing anything effectively. Welcome to the laundry room. This room's a little interesting, and that's the first one we've seen that's sort of optional. I say sort of because we do need to eventually enter that door to our south. And we also need to investigate this washing machine to grab this familiar looking hat. You found Mario's hat, and it's been laundered recently. That is all we technically need to do in here besides heading to the room to the south. With that said, you still can catch every ghost in here and the lights will turn on. As with most rooms, when you clear them, when the lights turn on, a chest will spawn, but unlike most other rooms where taking care of all the standard or boss ghosts will get you a key or something like that, in this case, lighting up this room, the chest is only going to contain money. If a chest at the end of a room contains only money, it is effectively an optional room unless it has an item like, say, the Mario hat we just grabbed, which you don't need now, but you can grab it now, so I'm doing that. I'm not going to actually use that for its purpose, though, until a little bit later in the LP. But that said, if you're trying to get all the boos as well in the game, you do need to light the room up, so you might as well at that point. Once we grab the boo in here, I think their name is Boogie, we're going to grab the chest and then head into the room to the south. With that said, if you want to do things in the quote-unquote proper order, or at least a more simplified order, there's something else you want to do first? But I'm doing this now because we're right here anyway, I might as well. It's not like I'll miss any money by not doing this in the proper order. If anything, it guarantees I can get the money sooner, but it's worth noting all the same. Also, that door to the north is a fake one. Don't go through there. So first thing we want to do in here is we want to head to the southwestern corner, as there's a guaranteed drop of some money in there that's pretty handy. Namely, it'll drop a sapphire, one of the several gemstones. I think other places money can spawn in here. The cupboard I just checked and got a heart from can have it, I think. The lamp on the ceiling can. I forget if anything else can. I don't think anything on the shelf up there can off the top of my head. But there is notably something else in this room we can do. And it's something you'll only really notice if you look around at the Game Boy Horror in every room, which I recommend doing an investigate on your first run just so you can get some more dialogue from Luigi that can be kind of funny. Namely, in this corner, there's a mouse hole. If you investigate it with the Game Boy Horror, you can suck out through it and get into the hidden room. This is one of a few couple treasure trove rooms throughout the mansion that just give you great rewards. You never really need to enter these places unless you're trying to get 100%. Namely because one of the other hidden rooms actually has a key in it, but this one is largely just for cash. With that said, before you head in here, make sure your fire element meter is as close to maximum as it can be, as there are ghosts hiding in some of the chests here, and there are first elemental ghosts. Notably, these ghosts have ice around their cores, which means you actively can't damage them without hitting them with fire first. There's two ways you can do this. Hitting them with fire, then continuing to do so to drain their HP 5 at a time, or after you first hit ghosts like this and their core melts away, so to speak, depending on the element, you can flashlight them and then do the usual vacuuming process from there. With that said, because the fire keeps them in place, I just find it to be the safer option, effectively. The elemental ghosts are probably one of the sloppier things about this game, if only because they throw them at you very suddenly in a way where on a first playthrough it's very easy to not have enough element to actively deal with them. Thankfully, most of the time you're in a room with elemental ghosts, either the element you need is in there with you, or you can just leave the room and go get it. It's not like they're going to lock you in there without a way to get out if you can't actively damage them, and they're very smart about that at least. And there's only really a couple times it really comes into play. Namely, there's one room, I think it even happens to me in towards the latter quarter of the game or so, where I often just forget to get the element I need. I also very much recommend opening chests in rooms like this one at a time, because either A, the ghosts will spawn and you can take care of them one at a time, or otherwise assuming you have no fire element, but also, more importantly, in the case you're trying to get a high score, it means you don't have a lot of money spawned in the room all at once, and that's less that can disappear on you. In fact, that's actually kind of something annoying about grabbing things like the emeralds, sapphires, and rubies here. Whenever you grab one of them and the animation plays like that, The timer for other money disappearing, namely coins and the dollar bills, and I think even gold bars can do it, is still running. So it's very easy to just completely lose out on some money because of something like that, and it's really annoying. More so in the PAL release, of course, just due to the raised requirements for high ranks. 1/5 of the way done with the booze already. So now to get out of here, we just need to enter the Game Boy Horror mode and actively investigate the mirror to get warped back to the foyer. With that said, we're going to be heading right back in that room's direction because we want to go do the thing that the room to the south of the laundry room actually needs. Namely, you might remember last part, we saw a ghost butler here in the hallway. He's carrying around a candlestick and is talking about some burning passion, so let's show him our burning passion with fire and arson. Oh, fire, 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 run away, run away. At this point, he will make a beeline for the room to the south of the laundry room, and that's where we can actually have our boss fight against him. I think if you take too long to get here, he does reset himself back to the hallway. So beating him here is effectively a good recommendation, but you don't need to worry too much about it at the same time, because it's such a small trek back and forth to here. Also, I really love Luigi humming the Luigi's Mansion theme. I don't know why, it's just a fun little character bit. Feels like a way to kind of center himself in the middle of this horrifying situation. People have talked on and on about the characterization of Luigi starting from around now, where he's the cowardly one, yeah, but he still makes sure to do what he needs to do, so he's ultimately the braver of the two brothers. The burning flames of unbridled passion. Wait, how about the passion flames of unbridled burning? When he's laughing there on the chair, you can grab him and start backing away at his HP. Due to the amount of furniture in this room, though, this is where the game really starts to step up how difficult it is to actively get the big pearls from boss fights, as it's very easy to get dragged into a piece of furniture and just lose the capture because of that before you get the big pearl. Moving forward, just expect that to be a pretty common thing. In fact, I can only think of like a couple of ghosts that don't really have things in the way like that moving forward. They are very rare. Also, there's really only one case this can really come into play, but whenever you clear a room and you go for the boo, if a treasure chest has spawned in and the boo leaves the room, open the chest and grab whatever's in it first. There is a notable, I forget if it's a soft lock or just something you have to reset the game for, where a key can notably despawn, and that's annoying. There's also, I think, notably another glitch that more comes into play during Area 3 that's just very rare that I'll talk about when the time comes. That key allows us to enter a door on the north side of Area 2, and while we're on the way there, I just realized I forgot to mention that ghost's name in bio. That is Shivers, the wandering butler. He wanders the house endlessly searching for his master's will. He hopes he's included in it. So the next room we're heading to is one of my favorite in the game, because there's just something about it I've always found very joyful, given what its gimmick is. With that said, I do technically skip a step in it, and I go right to doing the gimmick rather than investigating where the boss ghost is to get an idea of what we have to do. Our next destination is the conservatory. This room is full of instruments that we can investigate, and doing so will slowly make a very familiar song start playing. But you can get a hint to do that by actively using your Game Boy Horror on the boss in here, where she'll say, "Humph, this ragamuffin looks as if he couldn't play a note." I want to say, out of all the rooms that are after the game's intro, this one took me the least time to figure out the gimmick of, only because I investigated everything on my first playthrough out of habit in case I could get money from it. So the music starting to play was just kind of a happy coincidence to what we actually needed to do here. I love this rendition of the Mario Bros. 1 theme. It's so catchy, although I think there's technically a more full version of it in the game's code that's on like cutting room floor, I want to say. My name is Melody. People call me the spectral beauty of the Ivory Keys. What a stirring performance! I haven't been so charmed by a piece for ages. You must have a delicate ear for music. Would you like to listen to my piano sonata? Well, here I go. By the way, what image do you think the piece's composer had in mind while writing it? Well, if you know your video game music at all, you'll recognize that very easily. That is the Super Mario Bros. 1 water level theme, so it's for water. There's notably a different song that can play here, though.
Exactly right, you got it. Very impressive. I guess I needn't hold back with you. Would you care to do battle with my lovely music sheets?
Melody as a boss fight isn't too bad after you take care of her music sheets, because at that point that's when she becomes available for damage. But the amount of instruments in this room means there's a lot of furniture that can interrupt your vacuuming if you're trying to get a high rank on her. Now notably, she can play a different song there, namely the Mario Bros. 3 athletic theme. With that said, there was going to be a third song she can play and ask you about that went unused, but it's still in the game's code. You can actually find the dialogue about that directly, I think, on the cutting room floor. I'm assuming they cut it because it was comparatively obscure to the other two songs. You see, one of this game's two composers was Kazumi Totaka, and if you know your Nintendo lore, you know they hide a very quick musical piece in a lot of their projects in one place or another. Melody was going to play a version of that, but while that version went unused, a different mix is still present in the game if you wait on the control selection screen prior to the training room for about 3.5 minutes. Future me, can you play that right about here, please? Off the top of my head, I think he started including that as early as his first project he worked on, which I believe was X for the Game Boy. But he did it in a lot of his games moving forward. I believe I've LP'd 3 of them before this one, namely Mario Land 2, Link's Awakening, and For Frog the Bell Tolls, a Japan-only Game Boy game that was sort of a precursor to Link's Awakening. I wouldn't recommend going back to rewatch any of those LPs because they're old and probably very bad, but I've done it. The fact I've only done 4 somehow kind of surprises me, honestly. Here in the dining room, though, we already have our next portrait ghost. This is the home of Mr. Luggs, the glutton. He prefers all-you-can-eat buffets to 3 meals a day. He ate himself to death, but still wasn't satisfied. But before we deal with him and figure out how to deal with him, I actually want to go check out the cupboards in the room, namely the one on the left, because the one on the left has a speedy spirit within it. And I don't grab it for a little bit because you don't need to worry about missing golden mice as much, but there's also a piece of cheese beneath one of the chairs in here you can investigate to spawn a golden mouse that cycles around the table to the right. So you want to surprise it by going to the left first. I do grab that later on because there's another opportunity to grab that, but the speedy spirits are one and done, of course. So to actually fight Mr. Luggs, we need to light the candles around him on fire. That'll make it so he's constantly spawned in. Then we want to vacuum away at what I'm assuming is curry rice or whatever that he's eating. Doing so will suck it away until he has nothing there and he'll have to call in his waiters. Vacuum up the waiters, and then the food can't be replenished. Once he realizes food is empty and it can't be recovered, he's going to realize that you're a threat and start attacking you. He'll breathe a bunch of fireballs directly at you. That's his main attack. After he does enough of that, he's going to tire himself out, then you can vacuum away. With that said, because of his size already, he's kind of powerful, but also because of the large table in the middle of the room, it's very likely you're going to actively start vacuuming him from the other side of the table, and if you're not careful, it's very, very easy to completely lose him and just not get a big pearl from him because of that. Also, I just realized I forgot to talk about Melody's bio. Melody Pianissima is the beautiful pianist. Despite playing moving melodies, she has a surly disposition. Oddly enough, she loves video games. As many times as I've played this game, I've never been certain if there's a consistency to Mr. Luggs, though. I'm not sure if it's random how many shots he fires before he just runs out of breath and gives up, and then you can start vacuuming him up. It feels like it's at least 3 volleys of shots, but I'm gonna do more research post-recording for the second post for future me to talk about in the case I can find any more on that, because that's just how I like to do LPs nowadays. Now, the laundry room was our first optional room overall, and our reward for that was just money, but Mr. Luggs is our first optional boss ghost. And like I said back in the laundry room, your reward for clearing optional rooms is largely just money. But when you clear an optional boss ghost in specific, the chest that spawns in will always have money, but more specifically, a silver diamond, which is worth a lot of cash for your scores. I think it's the second most valuable thing in the game off the top of my head, because I think the only thing above it is a gold diamond, and there's only 2 of those in the game. Alright, we're getting to the point where boos regularly have about 80 HP. That's still not too bad, as honestly, if there's something I do like about the boos, you at least suck through their HP quickly when you're in the main rooms. When you're in the hallways, for some reason, it feels like they drain slower. And there's times, I swear, you can stun ghosts slightly. Namely, if you do enough HP in a row, they do kind of get pulled back towards the vacuum, especially if you're near the threshold of a room. So they can just barely almost flee, but then get pulled back in over and over again until you drain their health. Though there's some boys where it feels like it's easier to do that than others. Welcome to the kitchen. So the first thing I do in here is leave, effectively. In fact, I go back to the hallway back and forth several times. Why? One of the other golden mice that just spawn randomly can show up in this room, and usually in my experience, the most consistent way to have a golden mouse spawn like that is to go about 2 rooms away and then come back. This took me about 2 minutes to have the mouse actually show up. This is one that I frequently just have show up naturally on a playthrough, though, because I just get weirdly lucky with it. After that, I'm going to vacuum all the money, but then vacuum up as many of the pots and pans that try to attack us as we can really quickly, just so they don't get in the way of my next deal business in here. Namely, there's a speedy spirit in here. It's in the... I think it might be an oven. It could be a dishwasher, honestly, there on the left. And if I take care of all the pots and pans, they're not going to interrupt my potential capture of that, meaning I can get more money out of it. Now, when it comes to items that attack you, like the pots and the pans in the game, some of them respawn after a little bit, some of them don't. I think if you somehow get everything in the room done first, though, they will just no longer attack you outright. With that said, it takes so little time to actually vacuum them up, you might as well anyway just prevent them being an issue. Also, when it comes to things like the fridge, try to open them either from a side where the door isn't or with your vacuum from a distance, because that fridge door opening is actually strong enough with how fast it swings to do damage to you. There's a couple of doors that can do that in the game, and it's just good to avoid that, especially if you're trying to do as much money as you can. Also, there's a jump cut coming up here in the footage I literally just made. I stood still for like 40 seconds. I think what it was is I probably got a text message from someone that I had to quickly respond to or something like that. Either way, our reward here is the water element medal. What do you got to say about this one, Egad?
Hey now, Luigi. Now what have you stumbled across? Oh, this time it's a water element medal. Now you can use the water element. My research shows that these particular elemental ghosts leave their watery dwellings whenever you approach. You know the drill, vacuum them up. Use the L button to expel them once they're vacuumed. If you press the L button all the way in, you can shoot out a big ball of water. I hear there are some ghosts who can only be defeated with water, actually. Also remember that water has purifying properties, so use it well. Don't get too caught up on your little squirt gun, Luigi.
Yeah, you can press any given element all the way in with the left trigger, and you do actively, like, shoot out a supersized pellet of it. There's not many times that's useful. I'm not even sure if it actually can be used besides hitting things from a further distance on anything. I'll do some more research on that once I get to the post-editing phase, but I guess that's worth noting. It's just kind of cool to use against certain fights, I guess. With that said, water does have a secondary benefit we're immediately going to speed up to go use. Namely, if you've seen any plants throughout the mansion and continue to see any moving forward, if you use water on them, you'll likely get a decent monetary reward. For instance, these plants here on the balcony I mentioned back when we were first here in part 1. You can get a gold bar, a sapphire, and I think the other 2 plants have some dollar bills and some coins. In this regard, technically, water is probably the element you want to have on you more often than any of the others. But at the same time, it's not that needed unless you're going for a high ranking, especially in the PAL release. Notably, at this point, I think the only 2 rooms you could have seen plants in are the balcony we were just on, as well as the master bedroom here from Area 1. And now that we have this emerald in our inventory, we're going to speed our way back to the kitchen so we can put out the fire that was on that door. The water element now allows us to do that as well. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 5, now that we're going to go through this door, we're going to go to the end of Area 2 before starting off Area 3, which from my memory is the largest area in the game's plot. See you guys then.